And welcome into KC Sports Tonight. I'm Jared Koller, rocking with Gabe Swartz, partly because, well, Marlia and Neil just don't like talking to me anymore, I guess. So you're stuck here with Gabe. That's a good thing, because one Mr. Swartz knows his stuff, especially what we're talking about today. Gabe, how's that for a setup? Decent?
I like it. I like it. I like what the Royals did today as well.
There we go. So we get into it. Michael Lorenzen is the name you see on your screen, and he is your newest Kansas City Royal. Interesting career arc. He's had some success at the plate back in his Cincinnati Reds days. He has 7 career home runs, 31 career hits. But the Royals trade for him because he's a solid pitcher in the sense that last year he was an all-star for the Detroit Tigers, was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, and promptly threw a no-hitter. Then this offseason, he signed with the Texas Rangers, and now on a 1-year deal, he comes to Kansas City. Gabe, before we get into what this means for the future for the Royals, the trade itself, what do you make of Michael Lorenzen, the pitcher?
I think that it is another it feels similar to the Michael Wacha signing. It feels similar to kind of the Seth Lugo signing of he's 32 years old, so you kind of know for the most part what he is, but also there's a belief of premium talent. I mean, he was either a first-round pick or a first-round comp pick whenever he came out of the draft. And it's kind of the Royals betting on their pitching staff and pitching development team being able to take advantage of things and get the most out of them. And I kind of like the idea of that. I like the idea that it gives you the versatility of either, A, it's somebody who can be long relief.
Right.
They haven't really had a long relief.
Not necessarily long relief. I mean,
or somebody to start. It could be somebody to start.
Or and then somebody at the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah.
Would you rule that out either?
I mean, it's possible. There's this bullpen needs something.
That's what I'm saying. So along that line, that's why I think this is an interesting trade, is because we don't know his role. And as of now, what they're saying publicly, Matt Quatraro, manager of the Royals, to Andy Rogers of MLB Network just a couple minutes ago, quote, "We don't know his role, and he knows that we don't know exactly how he's going to be used. We're going to have to see how the rest of this trade deadline plays out, who's here, who's not, and see how the injuries play out as well." Now, how truthful is that? Are they trading for someone that they don't know how they're going to use them? Unlikely, but I think there is a degree of value here in the sense that he is capable of doing multiple roles, so they can see, all right, do we move Alec Marsh to the bullpen and Michael Lorenzen as Kansas City's 5th starter? Or do we move Lorenzen as in more of a bulk role as a long reliever guy to piggyback off Marsh? So maybe they go shorter. Or do they put him at the back end? Point is, they have options. And when you factor in the injuries of John Schreiber going on the 15-day injured list, Hunter Harvey seems like he's going to be all right. They call up Will Klein today as well. The bullpen hasn't been great. You don't know how many innings you're getting out of the starting rotation going forward. I think this adds nice depth, however they use him.
Well, and that's what we were talking about this a little bit pre-show of just how much do we believe in we don't know how we're going to use them. And I think they have a few ideas on what they're going to try to use them, and they'll go from there and see what works, because they've tried different things with the bullpen specifically this year they thought coming into the year this Will Smith was going to be their closer.
Yeah.
That was an idea that was thrown out there and tried, and it didn't work, and they quickly flipped from it, I think, within the first 2-3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
So I think you've seen Matt Quatraro and this coaching staff and JJ Piccolo be pretty open-minded in terms of, hey, we have an idea for what we're going to do with things, but if it doesn't work, they're going to flip and switch things. So I could see it. I could see that being the case, and I think that's probably the best way to go, because I don't know if Michael Lorenzen's going to be better than what Alec Marsh has been as a starter, or if he's going to be worse. And so that could be what he ends up doing. It could be a 6-man rotation. Maybe they try to take some weight off of Seth Lugo and Cole Reagan's shoulders down the stretch.
Do you have an idea of what's best? I don't know if there's a right answer. Do you think there is one?
I think my guess is that they try him as the 5th starter because Alec Marsh's ERA has really ballooned in July. I think it was near a 6.5 or a 7 in July. So he's kind of, after the great April and May that he had, it's not been as
and he is starting
smooth
tonight, so they could see how that goes as well.
And he's starting tonight, but also it's the White Sox, and they're on track to be the worst team in MLB history. So I don't know if there should be a ton of stock put into it unless he does something absurdly poor or absurdly well.
Right. No, I agree. And I think some of this could play itself out in the sense that if a starter gets injured, well, there you go. Or if someone, if Marsh struggles or if Lorenzen struggles, there's still 2 months of the season left to play to figure this out. And it starts with a handful of games here against the White Sox, who they've dominated this year, and they need to keep dominating. I don't know if it's fair to expect another sweep, especially on the road this time after you just swept them at the K, but at least 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
And you got to be hoping for a sweep after losing a back-to-back series at home against the Diamondbacks and Cubs. So,
I just think that, going back on it and the deal that was made today and the deal that they made pre-All-Star break with Hunter Harvey, it's been pretty decent process from J.J. Piccolo of this has been such a buyer's market or seller's market, and you've seen what the Tampa Bay Rays have done, getting rid of a bunch of guys, and they've been able to get tons and tons of prospects back. And for the most part, the Royals have given away not very much.
Right. Caden Wallace, who, by baseball standards, not a top prospect. By the Royals standards, he's a prospect. Somewhat on the list.
But it's
comparatively
speaking to what other teams have given up of 2 or 3 prospects, giving up in specifics for Lorenzen, a guy in Walter Pennington who's mid-20s, closer to late 20s.
You give up a lot of control, but not the upside. This team, his minor league numbers have been great since spring training, but this team just consistently did not believe that it could play at the big league level. Who knows if they're right or wrong, and now they're giving up many years of a potential reliever for the stretch run with Michael Lorenzen. I like that, Gabe, because I think they're not giving up on someone like Carter Jensen, Blake Mitchell, Ben Kudrna, Gavin Cross, someone with really high ceiling, but they're still improving their team. With that said, of course, at this time tomorrow, when the trade deadline will just be over, we'll see maybe they do part with one of those players for, a starting third baseman, a starting outfielder, or a bona fide closer. That's the jury's still out. I don't think they're necessarily done, but you're right. This has been a seller's market in the sense that teams are giving up a lot for the high-level players. So Royals fans watching that maybe want to acquire, a Ben Zobrist type player, be prepared to give up, the best that you got. And I don't know if the Royals are prepared to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be more of a seller's market in general in the future with the extra wild card and the evidence that teams have that you can make the World Series from the wild card position. That it's just going to be more teams in play, more teams willing to buy, and so as a result, teams that are willing to sell kind of have the upper hand.
But I do like the Michael Lorenzen deal. Again, I'm not expecting him to come in and be the savior, but I think he adds depth, and this bullpen desperately needed depth, regardless of if he slots in the pen or Alec Marsh goes back or if it goes into 6-man rotation, because, Cole Reagans has been phenomenal. He's going to reach his innings record, same as Seth Lugo, and so maybe this helps better set them up for a playoff push in September and potentially October. So I like that. But, Gabe, as we look towards August, September, post the trade deadline, obviously right now I think the Royals' goal is to get to the playoffs. You get in the dance. Anything after that is cherry on top. In order to get there, who are your top 5 most important Royals? I'm not talking who are the best Royals, not talking who are the most fan favorite, most valuable even necessarily. Over these next 2 months, who are the 5 most important Royals if Kansas City is going to make the playoffs?
So I did this exercise with the idea in mind that if we're not just talking about most valuable, because we know who the most valuable guy on the field is, and we know that it's Bobby Witt Jr., and we know that it is – I'm doing this exercise with the idea in mind that we understand the only chance for the Royals to continue to be excelling and even contending for the AL Central and for the most part keep up with or surpass the Boston Red Sox for that last playoff spot, maybe leapfrog the Twins for the fifth position in the second AL wildcard spot, is for Bobby Witt to be incredible. So I'm taking him off the board in this exercise. But with the understanding that, yes, he's the number one and most important person.
Because, folks, for the
record,
record,
to keep doing what he's doing.
I've done a top 5 list as well to compare, and my number 1 is Bobby Witt Jr.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying my 1 through 5 is
So,
in essence, 2 through 6.
All right, so we agree on Bobby Witt Jr., but I think it's worth noting, saying that he needs to continue to not just be the Bobby Witt Jr. there was for the first year and a half. He needs to be the superstar that he's been over the last year. It was actually 1 year ago yesterday when he hit that walk-off grand slam against the Twins. And since then, his WAR, I believe, is 10.3, which is a full point higher than anyone else in baseball. It's one of the best 365-day stretches in franchise history.
Yeah.
They need essentially close to that, and they need his superstar talent performing like one to help carry a lineup that is not as consistently strong and sometimes even weak in parts. So,
in specifics, they need him to do it on the road because he's been so good at home, but they've gotten more help at home.
Right.
And they haven't gotten the same amount of help on the road, and that's why, we were just discussing that take 2 out of 3 from Chicago at least, and a sweep is a lot to ask for, but it would help if Bobby delivers on the road, because I think he's hitting close to 400 at home, and he's hitting like 270 on the road.
The Royals' home road splits, for up and down the lineup are crazy. So, all right, Bobby Witt Jr. number 1. You're 2 through 6, Mr. Gabe.
Okay, are we alternating, or are we just giving?
You can give your 2 through 6.
I would go number 2. I think it's got to be Vinny Pasquantino. He's hitting between Bobby and Salvi, and as a result, there's a lot of high leverage situations where Bobby's putting something on and just keeping the line moving, getting it to Salvi, getting it to the middle of the order is important, especially because Hunter Renfroe's really figured things out. Vinny has been one of the most productive RBI men in the league at home, and as we spoke about with Bobby and the home road splits, Vinny's home road splits have been crazy.
Yeah.
He needs to deliver on the road. I think he's super important to making sure that the offense is key.
I agree.
I'd go with number 3 or number 2 in my list, essentially, is Cole Reagans.
Right.
He's been really good, but at the same time, the Royals have not been as effective in terms of getting him run support, and whether you believe that is the ace has to deliver and be better, or whether it's just circumstance and unluckiness.
I think that's more of it.
They've not won as much as they should when Cole Reagans takes to the hill. I think he's got to deliver down the stretch because you can't rely on Michael Wacha and Brady Singer to keep
but it's not his fault
that
they haven't won more games. I mean, especially a lot of times they're going up against the ace, and he's pitching 7 innings, 1-run ball. I don't fault that at all. But
but
I agree,
like yesterday's start leaves a little bit to be desired.
Sure. Oh yes.
You're an out away from a quality start. You're an out away from qualifying for the win.
Agreed.
And just let go of the rope there.
Yep.
That's why I'd have him number 2. I would say number 3. I think it's got to be. Can it be the idea of something? I'd say it's the leadoff spot. They've been very unproductive out of the leadoff spot, and whether it's been Adam Frazier, whether it's been Michael Garcia, whether it's been Garrett
Massey
Hampson,
led off
now they're
on
trying
Sunday.
Michael Massey. I think that
Nick Lofton is led off.
Yes, getting something productive out of the leadoff spot is super important down the stretch.
With
setting
Bobby
the
Witt
table
Jr.
for
hitting
what
second.
Bobby's doing.
Yeah.
So, in essence, I guess that pick is maybe a Michael Massey little pick because I think that the leadoff spot is so key for this team down the stretch. 4th is just James MacArthur figuring it out. I think the stuff is there. It just hasn't really worked.
Okay.
And I think that he's got to – they're not going to be able to fix every spot in the bullpen. So we've seen there's been lulls for different guys. There's been high points for the season for certain people. With John Schreiber going on the IL today, I think that it's important that MacArthur, whether he gets slotted in at 7th, 8th, or stays in the 9th inning role, I think he's got to be key. And then at my 5th spot, I would go with Hunter Renfroe because he's now sliding
coming off a big weekend
higher up in the order, and he did have a big weekend. 2 RBIs on Sunday, 3 RBIs on Saturday, excuse me.
Yep.
I think he's got to keep delivering because the start of the season was so poor that people kind of wrote him off. But since late May, early June, he's been great, and I think continuing that only lengthens the threatening part of the Royals lineup.
Sure. And was that your 5/6?
That's my 5 with 6 because Bobby was 1. Yes.
Gotcha. Well, very similar list in the sense that, and I had Bobby Witt Jr. number 1 as well for the reasons we said. Since Gabe got to go with an idea, I also went with an idea, and I'm glad he got to say it first so he can't make fun of me for going with it. The idea is the Royals closer because I don't think James MacArthur is going to be the closer. I don't know who it is, and it could be Michael Lorenzen, could be Hunter Harvey. Whoever on August 1st the Royals closer is I think, easily the second most important player to this team's success, because the starting rotation is good enough on the whole. I think the offense and defense is just barely good enough that if they can have a closer that at least gives you one shutout inning a game and holds down the wins. I mean, I'm not asking for Wade Davis here. I will also say Royals fans are pretty spoiled in their expectations for closers. Wade Davis was an anomaly. Greg Holland was an anomaly. Most closers give up runs. Most closers blow saves a couple times, a handful of times a year. So I'm not asking for perfection, but I'm asking for someone that's better than James McArthur. No disrespect to James McArthur. I think it was a great trade from the Phillies. The Royals gave up not much, and I think he is an effective big league reliever, but he's out over his skis right now. And so I think adding a closer, whoever that is, maybe that's a big trade, I think that is right up there. And then I think there's a decent gap, to be honest. But then I have the same order with you, Vinny Pasquantino followed by Cole Reagans. Pasquantino more so of his potential, and I think we've seen it. He struggled so much early on and then kind of got out of it and then struggled again. He's driving in runs, but I still don't think we've seen him go on a tear that we've seen him capable of at times, and you see a lot of warning track outs. You see a lot of sac flies in times where he could hit, a single or a double and have it be even a bigger of a run production moment. I think Vinny Pasquantino, he's been good to this point, but I don't know if he's been 3-hitter on a playoff team level good. And I think if they're going to reach the playoffs, they need the Pasquatch hitting like a 3-hitter. Yeah. And then Cole Reagans for the same reasons other than your dumb comment about, he doesn't get the run support. That's his fault.
No. I was not saying that he was. I was just saying that there's sometimes a belief that the ace needs to go out there and shut him down.
Which I think does need to happen, because I don't know if Brady Singer can continue pitching at this level. I don't know if Seth Lugo can continue pitching at this level. I don't know if I think the Royals rotation, it's long enough now. I think they've proven and they have my trust that they're going to perform at a high level, but I don't know if any of them will be aces down the stretch. I think Cole Reagans can be. And so on the whole, him performing like an ace, if he can do that, it's going to help out the bullpen, the rotation, and the lineup. So that's why I put him up there. And then rounding out my list, if we counted Bobby Witt Jr. as number one, is MJ Melendez, because he, one, has been pretty bad at the plate for a large chunk of time, with the exception of like the first 2 weeks and then the last 4 weeks before he got injured. But even in that time, he would every now and then hit just a really clutch home run. He would have a really clutch moment, like a unique slide at home plate against Cleveland, and he'd play great defense. And if he can continue to be clutch and hit maybe as close to as well as he did in July before he went down with injury, where he was getting on base enough and he was running the bases really well, I think if you can turn him from being a 200 hitter to a 220 hitter with clutch moments, I think that'll go a long ways in the lineup. And then along those lines, my last guy, since that was my 5, but if we take out Bobby Witt Jr. as an obvious one, I also want to mention Kyle Isbell, because I think the way he's performed the last 2 months is his peak. He's hitting the ball decent, hitting for some pop and playing gold glove defense, but I think it's very important that he continues to do that, because for the first month of the season and for a lot of his career, his bat has not been playable really. But now it has been of late. So if his bat can be playable and continue to play that gold glove defense where he's throwing out runners, making crazy catches at the wall, I think he's an incredibly valuable player. So I don't think it's going to take that much for him to be important, but I do think it is very important that he continues playing at this level to avoid having that really bad spot in the lineup, especially when you don't know what you're going to get out of left field, out of third base, out of DH, whatever, however you stack it up.
Yeah, I think that my Renfroe pick is kind of similar to your Melendez pick. It's just that the corner outfield spot has to be way more productive down the stretch for them to do everything that they want to do.
It's interesting time. So do you have a final because again, trade deadline's tomorrow. Do you have a final prediction? Will on anything the Royals will do?
I don't think that they do anything.
Okay.
I think that.
And is that the wrong decision?
just don't. I think it's a seller's market, and I don't think that they have the pieces to buy what they want to buy. And Piccolo's been pretty decent about figuring out whether it's been worth it to do anything, and so he just won't.
And you think that's the smart decision?
Probably.
I agree. Although I think I could see them acquiring like a utility bat. Not that they don't already have a number of utility bats, but
I was gonna say.
But like I could see them acquiring a lower level, someone that again doesn't take have you giving up a major prospect. So, all right. Other Chiefs news of the day, since we went long on Royals, but it's an incredibly important time for the Royals right now. Also for the Chiefs, and the best news to come out of training camp today is that one Joe Thuney has returned from injury, activated off the PUP list. He suffered that pectoral injury in the playoff win against Buffalo in the divisional round last year, and I didn't know if he'd be back this early, Gabe. So credit to him for working hard to get back, and he was immediately got first-team reps at practice today and then was kind of taken out for Hunter Norzad and Mike Caliendo. But he's really been a solid contributor on the offensive line. And he has 2 years remaining on that 5-year contract, as you see on your screen. So how big of a deal is it getting Thuney back in the fold?
I think it's huge. The more that the offensive line looks the way it did last year, with the exception of left tackle where they're figuring things out, the better off it is, and the more feasible it is for you to have a new left tackle, of whether it's Wanye Morris starting for the first time or whether it's Kingsley in his first year as a second-round pick. If that's what's going to happen, having an all-pro left guard right next to him, having an all-pro center next to him, and then having Trey Smith, who's one of the best guards in the league as well, and Jawan Taylor, who should have a better year, you would think, in his second year in Kansas City, more comfortable in the system, more comfortable in his surroundings, maybe doesn't get thrown off by the fact that Chris Collinsworth just threw him under the bus on national TV the first night of the season to throw everybody onto him.
Well, and he's making enough money that, that expectation I understand. But
yeah.
I think offensive line talk is so unique here in Kansas City because, Gabe, I remember the 2003 offensive line and how this city appreciates strong offensive line play because of Will Shields, Brian Waters, John Tate, Casey Wegman, Willie Rofe, and Priest Holmes running behind him. We haven't seen that level of dominance, but I think there is potential with this offensive line probably for the final time this year. But because of the talent that Kingsley possesses at left tackle, Joe Thuney is a 4-time Super Bowl champ. You've got Creed Humphrey at center, Trey Smith at right guard, and then Jawan Taylor is paid like a left tackle, to be honest with you. And I think if this offensive line can play to its potential, that's going to give Mahomes time in the pocket to do what you're seeing in these clips, and that's unleash the fury to some talented dudes. I think a lot of this does start up front, which is not the sexy thing to say, but I think it's true. The trenches are important.
And I think that it's also one of those things where there's a lot of evidence that sack rate and how often a quarterback takes sacks is a pretty quarterback-driven statistic. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best in the world at avoiding sacks, and so the bar for setting him up for success is honestly not super, super high for the Chiefs' offensive line. But
that's
if you
an
can have,
part,
if you can have the physical tools, the athleticism to do all of the screen game stuff that Andy Reid wants to do, and then run block, that's what takes the Chiefs' offense to the next level.
I agree, and Mahomes' ability to. I think even his running ability is underrated, but run away from the pass rush itself and avoid sacks is absolutely underrated. That's a great thing to point out. And underrated in the sense that, well, is Mahomes underpaid? Because that is a topic of conversation right now because, well, Jordan Love just got a crazy bag. And a lot of quarterbacks recently have continued to get raises. And so Mahomes, as you see, told USA Today recently that, hey, he says he's doing pretty well for himself, despite 10 quarterbacks having a higher average pay per year. Gabe, your thoughts on this situation?
I think that it's a very good sign to hear him saying the right things that you want to hear him say, of not sounding greedy, not sounding like he's disgruntled by the fact that he's the 11th highest paid quarterback in average per year salary right now, despite being very obviously the best quarterback in the world. That's a really good sign, and it's the leadership that he's displaying. It's a very Tom Brady-esque opinion and mindset to take into things. And that's, I think, one of the things that is just not discussed enough about the Chiefs is like Mahomes is going to get the money that he deserves. He's going to get it when it's due to him. Yes, he's going to keep moving the market along. But they've been able to take advantage of the fact that he's not been absurdly greedy. Travis Kelce's not been absurdly greedy. They got Chris Jones his money after he, held out for last year. But I think that winning a Super Bowl when the quarterback is the highest paid player and the highest cap hit in the league is an exception, not the rule. So when they did that 2 years ago in beating Philadelphia, that was very positive, but also not something you can always rely on. But a year like this, where Patrick Mahomes is the 11th highest, as I mentioned, in average per year salary at quarterback position and is being paid less than guys like Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, that puts the Chiefs at such an advantage because the rest of the roster around him can be so good.
Yeah, I continue to think that the rest of the NFL is in trouble because when Mahomes is not taking the cap hit that he has and you're able to bring back a player like Chris Jones, you've still got Travis Kelce in your prime. I think you draft well. I think it's injuries. And so that's where, again, the thing to watch for at training camp, the thing to watch for in the preseason is keeping your stars healthy because I honestly think that's pretty much the only thing that can derail this season to get to the postseason and be in a good spot. And then it comes down to just what side of the bed do you wake up on that day? Do you win the coin toss playoff games or nobody knows. But in order to put yourself in a great position there, the other teams can keep paying all their wannabe star quarterbacks more than Mahomes. But, Gabe, it's just they're on different levels. When you see Mahomes play quarterback, I don't know how you can then pay someone else more. Like, I understand that's what you have to do, but
that's why the other GM, they just can't be super excited about it.
I know.
Deep down they have to know that it's bad process
but they don't have a choice, so I'm not saying they're all idiots.
If you're a Chiefs fan, every time that you see a quarterback make money in the ballpark of or a little bit more than Mahomes, you should be thrilled by that outcome.
Yeah.
And then whenever Mahomes gets his money, you just know that it's the restart of the cycle. People will eventually surpass him, and it'll just keep going. We'll just keep doing this over the years.
Right. Because, as you said, the exceptions are when I think the formula was Russell Wilson winning on his rookie contract. You rarely see, I think Matt Stafford is really one of the only recent ones to make that much money and lead his team to a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And so it's possible, but your margin for error is just so small. And right now I think the Chiefs have a decently sized margin for error.
Yeah.
Something they didn't have last year. But their defense just kept them around, and then you get to the postseason, and then we see at times last year Tua was a perfectly compatible quarterback. Some games maybe even better than Mahomes, maybe at times. In the playoffs, they were playing different sport.
Yeah.
So that's why you just get to the playoffs, and then my confidence is probably too high. So either way, exciting times here for both the Royals and Chiefs. So, Gabe, thanks for pinch hitting for Neil and Marlia. I think they still work here. I don't know. They may show up one of these days. But, of course, we'll have more coverage on KC Sports tomorrow. But for now, James Shields, salute. And we'll see what the Royals have in store tonight.